Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's SANCOLD Young Persons Forum webinar. Thank you all for making the time to be here. My name is Ashley Kutsia, Chair of the SANCOLD YPF, and it's my pleasure to host you this afternoon. Today's session is titled Regulating Safety of Dams in South Africa, presented by the Department of Water and Sanitation's Specialist Unit, Dam Safety Regulation. It promises to be a valuable session, giving us real insight into the legislative framework, the regulatory processes, and the role the department plays in keeping our dams safe. Just a few housekeeping notes before we begin. Your microphones and cameras have been disabled during the presentation to keep things running smoothly. We'll hold a question and answer session at the end, but please feel free to type any questions into the chat as they come to you, and we'll address as many as we can during the discussion. Please note that today's webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be shared on our SANCOLD YPF LinkedIn page a few days from now. With that, let's get started. It's a real honor to have with us today Mr. Zwane, the Deputy Director General for Regulation, Compliance and Enforcement at the Department of Water and Sanitation. Mr. Zwane brings more than 28 years of experience in the water sector. He began his career with the then Department of Water Affairs and Forestry in 1997, and from 2010 to 2022, he served the Komati Basin Water Authority, first as Water Resources Operations Director and later as Chief Executive Officer, before rejoining the department as Deputy Director General in 2022, where he oversees the regulation and licensing of water use, as well as the economic and social regulation of the water sector. I'd also like to introduce our team of presenters from the Specialist Unit, Dam Safety Regulation, who between them brings decades of experience in regulation design, compliance, rehabilitation, and dam safety governance. First of all, we have Mr. Ramakopa, head of the Specialist Unit. Wally is a registered professional engineer and an approved professional person, holds a master's in civil engineering from WITS, and brings more than 24 years experience in dam engineering, 10 of those with the Dam Safety Office. He also serves on the SANCOLD Committee for the World Register of Dams and regularly represents the department before Cabinet and the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee. Ms. Koma, a Chief Engineer in the Dam Safety Regulation Directorate. Kitiwe is a registered professional engineer with over 14 years experience across the municipal, mining, agricultural, and industrial sectors. She holds a BSc in civil engineering from UCT and a Master of Engineering from the University of Pretoria. We have Mr. Baum, Chief Engineer in the Specialist Unit. Uze is a registered professional engineer with a decade of experience across the full project lifecycle. He holds a BSc in civil engineering from WITS and a BCom in law with distinction from UNISA, a multidisciplinary background that lets him bring engineering, contractual, and legal perspectives to complex infrastructure challenges. Next, we have Mr. Mokwele, Acting Chief Engineer in the Specialist Unit. Modlacho is a registered professional engineer with a BSc in civil engineering and 7 years experience in dam engineering and safety, including evaluations, compliance monitoring, design, and construction monitoring. To open our session, may I now invite Mr. Zwane to say a few words. Mr. Zwane, we're delighted to have you with us. Over to you.
Thank you. Welcome to everyone on the platform. As introduced, my name is Xolani Zwane. I'm a DDG for regulation. Let me greet all I can see here, we've got even the trailblazers of this very office where we are now, the Dam Safety Office. I can see Mr. Alan Chemali, welcome, sir, and welcome all the young professionals on the platform. It is a pleasure for us as the department to host this very important webinar where we are discussing the regulating of dam safety of the dams in South Africa. it's been, I think, about 2 years ago when our minister joined us. Within 3 months, she had to rush to Western Cape, where 3 dams, dam wall fails in Cape Town. And before even the briefing or induction, we already had to brief our minister on the importance of dam safety. So in such a way that when we issued a call for dam registration, she was the one who was spearheading that process and even making follow-ups on where we are with that process. And after closure, she said we need not close that process because it is very important for the dam owners out there. It is also very important for the APPs to keep reminding, engaging the dam owners on their mandate and their responsibility to make sure that there is compliance with dam safety legislation. So it is very important to us that we are here today, and this is just a start. We will also be convening other webinars across the sector. And it is important as well as we are starting now to work closely with the enforcement units of the engineering sector, where we are trying to make sure that there is compliance by the APPs as well, not only on dam safety regulation inspections for the whole value chain, from construction of these dams, that they engage their clients openly, and that even their report that we receive as per the findings that we have received now from the department, from the AG, particularly with regard to the construction of dams, our obligation to make sure that we do inspections, but also the obligations of the APP that they are there on site as the APPs. Maybe Wally, let me take this opportunity to make an example that in some cases we have found that the APP is not fully knowledgeable of what's happening on site. Maybe they rely more on the resident engineers, and we engage someone on the report that they've submitted to the department, but only to find that their knowledge of the information is very scanty, which is unfortunate for such a responsibility. So we believe this engagement will pave the way for other engagement, and we are also available to the young professionals to engage us anytime that they want information from the department. But this is not my webinar. I will allow now the team led by Mr. Wali here to lead us in the presentation, and we are open to questions, further engagement after the presentation. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you so much, Mr. Zwane, for those opening remarks. Without further ado, I'll now hand over to our team of presenters. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairperson. And then I will just want to greet everybody else and also pass my gratitude to DDG Zwane, who was able to make it. Obviously, we do apologize that Minister and Deputy and the Director General, the DG, could not be here because of an urgent meeting that they are having together with DDG, who might not be with us for the entire session due to that commitment. But we do appreciate his presence. And Chairperson, I will start without wasting any waste of time. You will indicate if you are able to see my presentation. I will share it now. I
am able to see it. Thank you.
I'm able to see the presentation. Okay, thank you. As I've welcomed everyone, our role as a department is actually to regulate the safety of dams in South Africa, and the mandate to regulate dams actually is in terms of Chapter 12 of the National Water Act. If you allow me to switch off my camera, Chairperson, so that I can concentrate on the presentation. The table of contents as outlined, I will be covering a number of chapters, but I will be assisted by my colleagues. You will see that the first 5, which is the dam safety legislation, our mandate, the Dam Safety Office, the ownership of dams in South Africa, and the licensing regime, I will be covering that. Then I will hand over to my colleague, Ms. Ketiwe Komu. She will be covering the dam safety evaluations part. And then Mr. Mukweli will be carrying out with the dam safety condition rating and the dam safety compliance monitoring. And then I will come back again to address issues around dams under construction and the approved professional persons. And then our chief engineer, Mr. Bam, then he will be coordinating or tackling the frequently asked questions, especially those that we've received from SANCOLD prior to us finalizing our presentation, and then we'll also deal with the administrative matters. When it comes to the legislation, our law is based on Chapter 12, or the mandate is based on Chapter 12. There's various sections, Section 117 up until Section 123 in the National Water Act that guides the mandate of the Dam Safety Office. Obviously, the dams that we are responsible in regulating are dams that are referred to as dams with a safety risk. There is a definition for that. Most of you will know that we are actually talking about dams that have got a minimum vertical height of 5 meters, and those dams must be able to store at least more than 50,000 cubic meters. The reason I've highlighted can store is because we do get instances whereby dam owners, they are saying though their dams are able to store more than 50,000 cubic meters, they are not operating them at that capacity so that they don't get regulated. But our regulation is clear. It's not really about whether that dam is operating or operationally it's storing 50,000 cubic meters. It is the capability or the capacity of the dam to store 50,000 cubic meters of water. So that is why we've highlighted that part of the regulation. And over and above that, the regulation further states that whether that water contains any substance or not, though I didn't indicate it here, that is where we actually indicated to most mining sectors, the mining houses, when talking about tailings storage facilities, because some of the tailings storage facilities can be referred to as water containing substance or water containing substance. But we will unpack that as we carry on with our presentations. And also I need to indicate that there is a possibility that a dam that doesn't meet the requirement in terms of section 117C, that is that 50,000 cubic meters and 5 meters, the minister can declare a dam or a group of dams to be classified as dams with a safety risk, even if they don't meet what I can call the automatic criteria as I've outlined in bullet number 3. So the minister's got that power. We have done such declarations before. There's a few dams in the Western Cape where when we do our risk assessment and when we classify the dams, we can actually tell that should the dam fail, people will lose their lives. Even if that dam was 4.9 meters high, we've made such declarations. And currently, that delegation to declare a dam that does not meet that criteria, it's not delegated to anyone else. So we have to write directly to the minister for the minister to issue such a declaration. So that we are also kept in check. We don't do as we please. Like we've seen, maybe I'm sure most of you will have seen in the Madlanga Commission, there are other entities that are not having any oversight. We do have some oversights, including the Water Tribunal, where those who are not happy with our decisions can challenge our decisions through the Water Tribunal. Over and above that, there are regulations regarding safety of dams. Most of you are familiar with these regulations because that is what we use mostly in our office as our bylaw. They are actually, they were replacing the regulations published in 1986. And those one was it was called the GN R1560, Government Notice R1560. It has since been replaced more than 10 years ago in 2012 by Government Notice R139. So that is the dam safety regulations that we also will be referring to in our presentations. And then that is what now brought to the birth, that led to the birth of the Dam Safety Office back then in 1986. Mr. Shemali will correct me if my reference to the 1986 is incorrect. That gave birth to the Specialist Unit Dam Safety Regulation, which resides within the branch regulation, compliance and enforcement. Now, some of the responsibilities which are part of what I've outlined include the registration and classification of dams. We did not unpack how a dam is being classified but it can be found in our regulations. There is actually a table at the back of the regulation that unpacks how a dam is being classified, meaning that is based on size and hazard rating potential. So our responsibilities include that of registration and classification of dams. And we also ensure that all dams with a safety risk are designed and constructed or altered according to prescripts, standards, and best engineering practices. That we do by issuing the different types of licenses. We'll be talking about the licenses in the later slides, what the licenses entail and how we do that. Also, we are responsible for assessing the dam safety evaluation reports. These are dam safety evaluation reports that are compiled by approved professional persons for Category 2 and Category 3 dams. Although we do receive Category 1 dams safety evaluations, we don't send them back, though they are not required by us. But the regulations, I just want to make it clear, the regulation does not say a DSE for a Category 1 dam should not be submitted, but we don't enforce the submission of Category 1 dams. We only enforce, at least for now, the enforcement of, the submission of Category 2 and Category 3 dams, because you will see the number of dams that are registered in our database that we don't have enough capacity to actually evaluate or assess more than 5,000 reports that may be received. Hence, we are enforcing mainly Category 2 and Category 3 dams. And we are also responsible, colleagues, for conducting what we call dam safety compliance monitoring inspections. Mr. Mutlajo will be talking about that in a bit more detail, as well as the approval of professional persons. And we are also the custodian of the register of APPs. And we also do interventions when emergency situations arises. And we also assist with compliance and enforcement. So that were mostly the responsibilities in terms of the National Water Act that we are carrying out. Our office, as I've said, it falls within the branch compliance monitoring and enforcement. The branch head is DDG Zwane, and he reports to the Director General, Dr. Sean Phillips. So where we are located within the branch has got 4 sub-programs, meaning Chief Directorates. We have Chief Directorate Economic and Social Regulations, and then we have Water Use Authorization. We have Compliance Monitoring, which also includes the Enforcement Unit, and the Dam Safety Office or the Dam Safety Regulation is a unit, a specialist unit in the branch. So in our unit, we also have managers, different units. We've got Ms. Mudipan, who's actually responsible for the dam safety admin, and we have cluster managers. I will unpack the clusters. We've got 4 clusters known as Dam Safety North, Dam Safety East, Dam Safety Central, and Dam Safety South. They are all each managed by chief engineers, who we also refer to as cluster managers. As an example, Dam Safety North cluster actually encompasses the Limpopo Olifants Catchment Management Agency. So that part in Limpopo Olifants Catchment, or the water management area, that is the area that we refer to as Dam Safety North. And Ms. Ketiwe Komo, she is the chief engineer responsible for that unit. So you will see that in most cases, when APPs submit applications, whether it's for licenses or it's for APP applications, if it's related to a certain area in the country, it will be dealt with by that cluster or by that cluster manager. So you will find that when you submit an application for application for a license in Bloemfontein, whereas you are used to be dealing with Ms. Ketiwe Komu, but then your application then will be dealt with by somebody else, Mr. Bam in this case, who will be the cluster manager for Dam Safety Central, which encompasses Val Orange catchment as well as Mzimvubu Tsitsikamma. And then we also have Dam Safety East, that is in Komati Usutu, as well as Pongola, Ntamvuna. The last cluster, which is the biggest and the busiest, is the Dam Safety South cluster, which is mostly your breeder olifants in the Western Cape. So those are the clusters and the cluster managers. At least you will know now going forward when you are dealing with a matter that is in a certain cluster, it's because of how we actually divided how we manage dam safety in the country. Now, this is just a map showing where those clusters are located. The northern cluster, as I've said, it will be Limpopo Olifants. Central cluster will be Val Orange, and then you can see the eastern cluster, which is mostly located in area and your Nkomathi, Sotho, and then you've got your southern cluster, which is the Eastern Cape. And we also have unpacked the number of dams in those clusters. So it shows how busy or how big when it comes to dam safety matters or dam safety related matters, those clusters are. You will see that in the Breede Olifants, the percentage in terms of the registered number of dams is about 29% of the dams that we have are actually in that Breede Olifants catchment. In our register, we have 5,714 dams. Then we have unpacked how those dams are actually registered per cluster, and also the number of category 2 and category 3 dams. The most number of those dams are also in the Breede Olifants. So that is our busiest area, and that's where we actually have also the number of engineers and technicians and technologists working within that cluster because of how busy they are. You will see later on that even with the number of license applications and dams under construction, it's actually mostly in that area. So this is how the clusters are actually covered in the country. Now, when it comes to the ownership of dams in South Africa, colleagues, as I've said, about 5,714 dams that are on our database. This is the dams that are registered that we know of. There might be other dams that are unlawfully or illegally constructed, but those are not part of the 5,714. You will remember that in 2024, Minister also issued a notice in the Government Gazette for registration of dams by those who have dams that are not registered. So we have received, at least to date, more than 440 applications since then of dams. We are not saying those dams are all dams with a safety risk. We are still processing them, but that's the number of applications that we've received since the notification, the notice was gazetted. So in terms of the areas or the sectoral ownership, we've got different sectors. We've got DWS as a sector. DWS, that is the Department of Water and Sanitation. It is a sector on its own because of the number of dams that they own as one single owner. We have the local government, that is your municipalities. They own about 350 dams, which is 6%. Other state departments, this is other government departments apart from DWS that also happen to own dams. Example of such will be the Department of Agriculture, Department of Correctional Services. They do own dams because they do some agricultural activities within their facilities, so they do own dams. And then Department of Education, we found a university that owns a dam that is also registered under the Department of Education. We also have water boards. Now, these are your Rand Water, Ungeni, Utukela Water, Val Central, and Lepelle Northern Water. They own dams. It's about 54 dams, mostly your concrete reservoirs that store clean water that is treated. We also have the business, mines, and industry that own dams. About 6% of the dams in the register, they are in that sector. And the majority of the owners of dams in South Africa, those are your farmers, the agricultural sector. You can see that about 79 or 80% of dams owned in South Africa are owned by your agricultural sector. More than 4,571 dams are owned by the sector, by the agricultural sector. And you can also see that in terms of the sizes, this is just the size classification. More than about 77% of dams in our register are small dams, followed by medium, which is 20%, and the large dams about 3.2% in terms of the sizes. But then we can also zoom in to the storage capacity of these dams that we spoke about. DWS, though they own only 6% of dams in our register, that is 322 dams, but in terms of the sheer storage capacity of these dams, it exceeds 80%. So we're talking about more than 29.2 billion cubic meters of water being stored in dams that are owned by the Department of Water and Sanitation. And that sector that owns the most number of dams, which is your agricultural sector, with more than 4,500 dams, the combined storage capacity of their dams is actually about 7.2%. So people will ask and say, but Minister is in charge of the Department of Water and Sanitation, but she's also only in charge of about 6% of the dams in our country. We have to now consider the storage capacity of the dams that we are talking about. So that is why we had to bring in this slide, just to show the storage capacity of dams that are registered in our country. Now, over the past few years, since 1986 or so, the trend of registration of dams in South Africa, we've seen that on average, there has been an increase of about 860 registered dams every 10 years. This data is only up until 2022. Obviously, we have the latest data, but we have not updated this particular slide. But this just shows how the registration of dams have increased since around about 1986 till 2022, when we had about 5,662 dams registered in our database. There's a difference in the 5662 and the 5714 numbers because we are cleaning up the registry, the database, and there has been duplications and additions that we are actually editing to clean up our database. It is not 100% accurate, but it's a work in progress. Hence, we can now report that we have about 5,740 dams in our register, including some of those dams which are registered as illegal, because the regulations requires us to register the dam, whether the dam is legally constructed or not. As long as that dam meets the requirement, it must be registered so that we can regulate such dams. Now, in terms of the licensing processes, we issue licenses to different types of dams or different activities or the tasks. Now, the tasks are actually defined in the Act, Section 117E of the National Water Act actually defines what a task is. You will see in the most bottom bullet where I've defined the task as per the Act, that it includes designing, construction, altering, repairing, impounding water, as well as evaluating the safety of a dam, also decommissioning. So these are the tasks where we require an approved professional person to be involved. Now, when it comes to the licenses, we issue licenses for construction of new dams, altering of existing dams, also the raising of dams such as your Willem Dam and Zanin Dam. We have to issue those licenses, as well as repairing an existing dam. But when it comes to repairing, it depends on the scope of work. There are some minor repairs that do not require a license. Hence, I've indicated that repairing an existing dam depends on the scope of the work. Normally, we do get inquiries from APPs and from dam owners to try and ascertain whether the scope of work that they are engaging on requires the involvement of an APP or even a license. So hence we had to qualify that statement to say it depends on the scope of work. We also issue license to impound dams. So this means that when you're constructing a new dam, especially category 2 and category 3 dams, before you can start impounding that water in that dam, you will be required to apply for a license to impound. And that is with the exception of category 1 dams. Category 1 dams, we do not require a license to impound, or you will not require to be in possession of a license to impound, as well as tailings storage facilities. I had to put this because you will know that TSFs or tailings dams, their operation continues up until they stop deposition of the tailings into the dam. So it's not a facility that has to wait for impoundment once construction is started, because it's a continuous process. So hence we don't require, or it's not a requirement for tailings storage facilities to have a license to impound. We also have to issue a license to decommission any dam that has been classified as a dam with a safety risks. Now, when it comes to the turnaround time, for all the other licenses, except the license to impound, the turnaround times in terms of the regulations is 3 months from when an application is submitted in full. Why I'm saying that in full, because we do have, or we used to have applications that come in drips and drabs, and then the applicants will refer us to the date where they first submitted page 1 of their design report, whereas the report, I'm making an example like that, where their report was not submitted with all the other requirements. So that is why we say the turnaround times is 3 months, and we are required to finalize the matter within that time. Why I'm saying that, to finalize the matter mean whether we approve or we do not approve a license application, we have to do it in 3 months, because we are also audited by the Auditor General of South Africa on our processes based on the regulations and the standard operating procedures. So if we have received an application And between the engagement between us and the APP, we find that the responses from the APPs takes longer than necessary. And then that actually goes towards us not meeting the required turnaround time of 3 months. We have to make a decision to either approve or not approve that license, even if the outstanding information is very minor. But because of the processes, we have to finalize the application, because if we don't, it comes out as a findings against us that we have not finalized license applications within the stipulated time frame. In other cases, we do remind APPs to say, please remember to submit the outstanding information that we've requested. Otherwise, we will have to make a finding or a decision without that information being received. And the consequence of that is that the applicant will have to make a fresh application from scratch, and it will have to wait for all the other license applications that have been on the queue to be evaluated. So it's important for APPs to respond as soon as possible, as soon as they can, so that their applications don't go back to the back of the line where they will have to wait for 3 months again, whereas you might find that the owner of the dam is actually in a hurry to construct such a dam. But when it comes to license to impound, the turnaround time is 2 months. We are trying as much as possible that we don't take 2 months. We take shorter than that, but the turnaround time is 2 months for license to impound. And I think I've also mentioned that for category 2 and category 3 dams, the owner of a dam must actually get the services of an approved professional person before they can actually construct or design the dam. For category 3 dams, there is a requirement that a professional team must also be approved. And I just want to make this point. The professional team doesn't have to go to the engineering council. We don't have to consult as a department EXA for that. We do that without consulting EXA, but we cannot assess a professional team application if there's no APP. Remember, the professional team must be the submission for application of approval must be done by the APP. Hence, when a person applies to become an APP, they do not have to submit a professional team at the same time, because at that time they are not approved as APP. Only when they are approved as APP, then they can submit application for approval of professional team, unless if the APP is already on the register, then that will have to be confirmed first. And then I think I've already touched on the tasks as defined in the Act. Now, when it comes to the licensing processes, because we have this turnaround time of 3 months, we've also developed a tracking system so that we also try and not delay applications that have been submitted to us. With the tracking system, we track the date at which the application was received. You'll see this column, it will indicate when the application was received. And then from that date, we know that the application must take 3 months, which is this date. So we do have a monthly meeting where we actually go through applications that have been received to try and ensure that we don't have backlogs, unnecessary backlogs. So hence we have this tracking system. And then we do have a comment section where we indicate why is there a delay on an application. So as I've said, that if the applications take too long because of the APP maybe not responding, we are able to finalize matters without having to wait 3 months, because if we do that, AG, the Auditor General, will make a finding against us. So this is just an example of the tracking system, just that I wanted to show you that we are using to monitor the license application processes. I think that was my last slide. I will give to Ms. Komo.
Thank you, Mr. Ramakapa. My name is Ketiwa Komo, and then I will be presenting this section. By the show of maybe reactions, can I see whether everybody can hear me? Am I audible? Thank you. It's important that I'm audible because it seems now we have come to the heart, to the heartbeat of the Dam Safety Office. I will be presenting on the dam safety evaluations. So it's the responsibility of the owner of a dam that's a category 2 and a category 3 to make sure that a dam safety evaluation is carried out at their expense. So a dam is an expensive asset to own, and one needs to have active income to make sure they comply to regulation for that particular asset that they might have. The dam safety evaluation for category 2 is supposed to be carried out by an APP, and for category 3, it's an APP assisted by a professional team. In our experience, we've probably had engagements with a number of APPs where maybe they will feel certain things are not done the way they've been done before. But it's important for us now for this presentation to bring it back to regulation, because the goodness of a DSE, or the effectiveness of a DSE, or the ineffectiveness of a DSE, it lies on Regulation 35. It falls and rises on that. If it's fully covered, we are able to use that tool effectively. But if it's not fully covered, that tool is not useful to us as the regulator to know the safety of our dams. So drawing your attention to sub-regulation 35, sub-regulation 2, we've had most of the evaluations. They fully cover the shortcomings that may be experienced in a dam, the actual and potential shortcomings, quality and adequacy of the maintenance or operational manuals that are being followed. But we've had APPs overlooking the aspect of the resource quality when conducting dam safety evaluations. They will look at the behaviors that might endanger human lives, damage to property, but they ignore the adverse impact it might have on the resource quality. Let me give this context. So when evaluations are done in areas like mining or industries, mining and industry must have a closed loop system of which the dams do not spill. Even if they may have a spillway for emergency purposes, an APP must ensure that that spill is able to be contained and brought back to the system. But we've had a lot of times where APPs overlook this aspect, and with the nature of minerals generally depositing around where you have water resources. For example, if you look at Jagersfontein, it's in an area that is surrounded by different kinds of wetlands, because that's normally where you have a deposit of minerals. And therefore, an APP is also responsible to make sure that the quality of the water resources is not compromised in case of that peak flood that may be rooted on the spillway. You must make sure that it's either contained by a dam downstream, or it's diverted in a certain way to actually go back into the system to keep that closed loop system. While we perform our duties, we are not supposed to enable pollution. So that still falls part of the responsibility of the APP, as sub-regulation 2 explains. The report, as I indicated, must be done or compiled by the APP, an approved professional person, and submitted to the Dam Safety Office, which represents the Director General. In that case, when we're evaluating the report, there might be maybe incorrect information that we might pick up, or some incomplete information. And in that case, we might refer back that report for that to be corrected. It is not a personal thing, but it's just for that tool to be effective, which is a dam safety evaluation, for us to know exactly what's happening with the dam. And then we go to sub-regulation 4, which talks about what the dam safety evaluation report must have. Most of the time, we have emphasis maybe on reports that are put on the physical evaluation, and there's little or there's minimal information that is put on the desktop and analysis that one ought to have in the report. Also, the other is not supposed to replace. For example, a stability analysis. An APP cannot only just say it appears to be stable. There must be a science that backs that. So the science that is required in the first phase or the desktop does not replace the physical inspection. Also, the physical inspection does not replace the science that needs to back everything and have recommendations at the end. I would like to also just talk about the risk factor. We generally have most reports not covering the risk assessment fully on dams. You might find that a dam was built during a time that there was maybe less economic activity around that area and it was in a remote area. And now maybe there is a provincial road or a municipal road downstream that dam, and maybe a village or informal settlement. But when the APP is doing the evaluation, they do not go back and evaluate this and actually assess whether the classification that is attached to the dam is still applicable. And this is very crucial, but it's generally overlooked when performing evaluations. May we go to the next slide? Yes. Mr. Ramukopa did explain that we did an audit on the dams that we have in the country. It appeared at times that when maybe there's a failure, the owner didn't even know they own that dam. Maybe like your national department or your provincial departments don't even know they own the dam, or municipalities. So this was crucial for us to do that exercise and actually even share the reports with them so that they can correct information and they may be aware in case that they are not aware that they own dams. So we on the evaluation or on the audits that we did, we established that we have about 2,471 dams that are falling in the category of Category 1 and Category 3 dams. So these are the dams that we are subjecting unto Regulation 35 for the compulsory 5-year DSE. May I go to the next slide? On the dam safety evaluation reports that we are receiving, we established that we have about 92% of dams that are embankment dams in the country. And we have then different types, as you can see, concrete reservoirs, because we have reservoirs that qualify to be classified as dams with a safety risk, concrete arch, and so forth. And you shouldn't be alarmed by the number that you see there, 29 for tailing storage facilities. We are still busy with the audit for the tailings facilities. The 29 that you see there is based on the registration that we have at our disposal and the purpose for the dam, so the use of the dam. But this number will change. Maybe by the time we get to SANCOLD, this number will be higher than it actually is. And we are receiving a good volume of dam safety evaluation reports. On average, we are receiving about 184. We have received about 184 per annum in the past 4 years that we are tracking. Although we still have some major non-compliances in other areas, but we are receiving reports accordingly. May we go to the next? As I had indicated, that a DSE is an important tool for us to actually be able to track or to know the safety of our dams. It gives us confidence that our dams are safety, or it raises alarms that we have a lot of work to do if dams are not safe. So when we have good quality reports, we are able to have good confidence and also raise alarms where those alarms need to be raised. A DSE is compulsory, as we've indicated. It's not the choice of the owner to decide to do it or not do it, unless we, as the Dam Safety Office, indicate as such that maybe it can be deferred for longer years and maybe submitted in 8 years, depending on the condition of the dam. So it lies with us. And the DSE, as we indicated, is compiled by an approved professional person. So only the minister approves an APP. It's not a status that you get like a professional registration. It's not like a title that stays with you. You are only approved for a specific task. You apply and get approved for a specific task. It doesn't mean that if you are approved for a certain task, then you can do any other task maybe in that area, as we have seen maybe in other instances, that someone will be approved as an APP somewhere and then they feel they can work in that whole area without actually applying and be approved by the Minister of Water and Sanitation. So when we evaluate now the dam safety evaluation report, we can either accept or not accept its findings and recommendations. And in that case, if we don't accept, we may refer it back for improvement. So when we write back, we do give the conditions or the reasons for the rejection. And we expect that they are addressed and the report is brought back to us for us to process once again. At times, you may receive a conditional acceptance. An owner may receive a letter saying your dam safety evaluation is conditionally accepted, maybe pending submission or updating of the EPP and O&M. So you must know which letter is saying what. Once we accept a dam safety evaluation report, we assign it a conditional rating that will be given in detail by the next presenter. But once we have that, because now that will be a tool that we use in future to actually perform a dam safety compliance monitoring on the particular dam. So it helps us to prioritize when we've given a condition, so that we put more resources where there is maybe the condition is too bad, maybe it's on the F, and we put maybe less resources where the dams are in good condition. And once an owner has received the letter of your DSE is accepted, they need not to just file the DSE and move on with their lives and just wait for the next 5 years. They need to implement the recommendations that the APP has given in the report using the form DW19, and then report to us so that we see there's progress, and eventually it might actually even change the conditional rating that is attached to that dam. When we send the letter is addressed to the owner of the dam and not to the APP. But the reasons might be because maybe of an APP oversight, or others. Maybe it's stemming from compliance. The owner has not been complying, and maybe we've requested an O&M and an EPP, and the owner keeps on not complying with that. Or so it might be due to the owner and might be due to the APP, but the letter is not directed to the APP. It's directed to the owner of the asset. So we look at some of the reasons that a DSE might not be accepted. Sometimes, like I had indicated, the task is carried out by a person who's not approved or not approved yet. Some people do a DSE and then they apply later to be an APP. You cannot perform the task of an APP before you are approved as the APP. And sometimes the APPs maybe overlook signing the DSE In that case, we just refer it back and it's signed because it's just administratively, and we are able to actually just process the the report. And sometimes there's issues maybe of access, that the APP could not access certain areas of the dam, whether because it was raining or there's ponding there or there's vegetation. If it's raining on the day that one is supposed to perform an evaluation, it's advisable that it's canceled that day and it's scheduled for a time where you will be able to do a comprehensive evaluation. Because if it's raining, you won't be able to see properly other areas, and the safety also of the team or the APP is of concern. And sometimes an APP will perform a dam safety evaluation, and maybe the downstream is overgrown or the tow area is overgrown, and they are not able to actually see anything, but that report is compiled and submitted to us. We will refer that report back. We will reject it. It is the responsibility of the owner, excuse me, to give the APP access. Should they be maybe even on the drains, maybe it's locked and the APP is not having access, the APP must instruct the owner of the dam to give him access to be able to perform that. Sometimes the report has not addressed some of the accepted recommendations from the previous DSE. I think it's prudent that if an APP is about to take an work of doing an evaluation, they look at the previous reports and the accepted recommendations to actually have a clear picture of the scope of work that is involved. Because we've had instances where there's accepted recommendations, but the APP keeps maybe deferring it to the next evaluation. They will say maybe the stability is not done. It should be done in the next evaluation. And in the next evaluation, that APP still doesn't do the stability analysis. It refers it to the next evaluation. We will actually reject that report, because what good of a tool is that dam safety evaluation report to us if it's a tool that has an aspect that is still unclear, that keeps on being carried on to the next evaluation, to the next evaluation? So in that case, we will reject the report. Or maybe an O&M manual and an EPP was recommended in the past evaluation. And now when the evaluation is done, it's still not included. So it will be rejected. The owner must give funds for that to happen. And the owner must put it as the scope of work for the APP to compile that. Because then that tool becomes not useful to us if it has a lot of gray areas, information that we cannot get ourselves. We don't have confidence on what will happen should the dam fail. So these documents are important. And as I've explained, that if it does not meet the required stipulated requirements that are on Regulation 35, that report will be rejected. And it's not because we don't like the report or we find it not favorable to us. It's according to the regulation. It's always according to the regulation. And anyone who feels the report is not being evaluated in accordance to the regulation, then can raise that matter. And sometimes the report does not have enough information or inconclusive on the safety of the dam. Excuse me. We've had instances that an APP does the evaluation, and we can even see in the report, in the pictures, certain areas that the APP was supposed to comment about and give recommendations on, but the APP is quiet about those issues. does not say anything about it. That may lead the report to actually be not accepted. And we've had an instance where a certain dam, the upstream slope was totally destroyed. The cavities there were so severe. So, and the APP said nothing about the safe operating level of that dam, gave no recommendation. And the APP did not do any form of analysis, says it's not important, the dam is going to fail, but does not give a safe operating level in the meantime while the dam is in that state, and instructions on how to operate the dam to the dam owner. So issues like that may lead to a rejection, that we need more information. And sometimes there was an instance where there was severe seepage in the gallery and material was full in the gallery. The APP said nothing about it in the report and also did not give any recommendation. That will lead to that report being rejected, because a person is appointed as an approved professional to give everything about the shortcoming of that dam. And if the APP is going to be silent on certain issues that are affecting the safety of the dam, that report may be rejected. And lastly, most of the dam owners are just lay people, and they truly rely on the APP's guidance on how to comply with regulation. Sometimes they may even say the APP is appointed to do the dam safety evaluation or give any direction or legislative framework that they need to comply with. So the onus is on the APP to correctly direct the dam owners on how to go about complying, because they may not know. It's the same as having a car. You just know how to drive it. You don't know how to fix it and who is right to fix the car. Same as some people who own dams. Thank you.
Mr. Mokwele will now carry on from here. Matlacho.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Thank you, Ali. Can I just get an indication as to whether I'm audible? Okay, perfect. Let's get into it. As Ketua just mentioned now, speaking about the dam safety evaluations, that for every dam safety evaluation report that is accepted, it will be accepted with a condition rating. Now, this is what we're getting into now, the dam safety condition rating, which speaks to the analysis of the condition of that dam based on the findings and the recommendations that are in the APP's DSE report. These condition ratings range from A to F. A, which is a dam that is in a good condition, only requiring some routine maintenance here and there. B and C, also relatively good condition. Just also up to maybe some sort of maintenance that is required. Then from D, that will be a dam that requires rehabilitation. E is a dam that would be requiring some upgrading, and F is a dam that is unsafe. In most instances, then for such a dam, we would now be required to implement some restrictions to the operation of the dam. For example, restricting the water level on the dam to minimize the pressure that is exerted on the dam wall and alleviate any chances of failure. So now looking at the middle column of the table there, that indicates whether or not an APP is required in the implementation of those recommendations. So in these instances, when a DSE is accepted with a condition rating D, E, and F, an APP is required to be involved to implement those recommendations that speak to the either rehabilitation or upgrading of that dam. And then the next column speaks to it speaks to the frequency at which the progress with regards to implementation of those recommendations needs to be submitted to the Dam Safety Office. As you can check from C, it's 12 months, then 6 months for D, 6 months again for E. And for condition rating F, it's 3 months because now this is a dam that is unsafe and requires some close monitoring. In the same way, in the last column, that speaks to, that indicates when the next DSE is due, depending on whether the dam is a category 2 or category 3. And if you look at the last column on the last row, that would tell you that now a dam that is given a condition rating F, which is an unsafe dam, is required to have a DSE done after 3 years, because now the dam has been declared to be unsafe and requires close monitoring. So we have to again, in a shorter period, look at the condition, the safety of the dam. We can go to the next slide, please. So looking at the condition rating of the dams per ownership sector, out of the 2,471 category 2 and category 3 dams that Ketty mentioned, the Dam Safety Office has attached condition ratings to only 1,056 dams, and this is due to a backlog in assessing these DSE reports, as well as also non-compliance in terms of submission of these DSEs by the dam owners and rather the APPs. So if you can check, we've got about at least 62% of these dams that have been evaluated, having a condition rating from A, B, and C. That is the ones that we refer to as having a relatively good condition. So that adds up to about 659 of these dams. The Dam Safety Office has, however, appointed a PSP to deal with this DSE review backlog, so that the numbers look a bit better. But if you can also check the graph that we've got on your top right corner, do indicate that majority of the dams that have been reviewed indicate that they've got a condition rating of C and D, meaning that we've got more than 700 of these dams requiring some sort of significant maintenance and rehabilitation. Now, looking at the table at the bottom there, taking it per ownership sector, for example, the first ownership sector being DWS, you are able to see that DWS has about 5 dams which have had a condition rating 5, a condition rating A. This is only about 3% of the total number of dams for which the DSEs have been submitted and accepted, which is the total number is 163. So out of a total number of category 2 and 3 dams of 287, the number of dams that have been evaluated is about that have been evaluated and attest a condition rating is about 57%. So in the same way, the next ownership sector would be your municipality, and it also has like 5 dams with a condition rating A, 15 dams with a condition rating B, 50 dams with a condition rating C, and so on and so forth, adding up to a total of 116 dams, and out of a total of 285 category 2 and category 3 dams, this is about only 41%. So all of this you can see going down to a total of 2,471 category 2 and category 3 dams, and also showing that the number of dams that have been evaluated as 1,056, which is 43% of this total number of category 2 and category 3 dams. Fortunately, we only have like 10 dams in total that have a condition rating of F. Yes, we can go to the next slide. Now, we've got what we call a dam safety compliance monitoring, what we call dam safety compliance monitoring inspections, in short, DSCMI. So once, as we have mentioned, that once a DSE report has been accepted, a condition rating would be attached to that dam, and that is recorded together with the DSE report date on the dam safety office database. So that it feeds into the information that is required for the DSCMI program. So once this information is captured, it is used to generate what we call a DSCMI priority list, which we put together every financial year. So the DSCMI priority list as the instrument that the Dam Safety Office uses to monitor the implementation of the recommendations that come that stem from the latest DSE that was compiled by the APP. So this is implementation that this is the recommendations that need to be implemented by the dam owners. And this is mostly now referring to dams where the progress reports. This refers to dams where the progress reports are not being received, or we have got where there's serious concerns that have been raised by the APP in that previous DSC. So now the DSCMI is one of the main functions of the Dam Safety Office, and it forms part of our departmental annual performance plan, and it is conducted by the Dam Safety Office officials. So after we would have developed this DSCMI prioritization model, we use that to identify the dams that we would need to earmark and prioritize for that year's DSCMI program. And from that, we are able to then carry out the number of DSCMIs that we can do in a particular year, given the amount of resources that we do have. And it must be noted that the fact that APPs are required to enforce enforce the implementation of the DSE recommendations is merely a misconception, because it is through this DSCMI program that the Dam Safety Office is actually doing this looking into the implementation of this recommendation for more than 6 years now. So it is not in any way the responsibility of the APPs. So now this DSCMI prioritization model has 3 elements that we use to rate the dams. The first one, looking at the condition rating of the dam, which is the one that holds the most weight towards the rating. This is about 50% of the weighting, and all of these 3 elements takes into account the hazard potential rating of the dam, whether the dam is has a low, significant, or high hazard potential rating. So looking at the first dam, if you were to have a dam that has got a condition rating F, meaning that the dam is unsafe, whereas that dam is actually having a hazard potential rate, high hazard potential rating, this already indicates that this dam is stands a higher chance of actually being earmarked for a dam safety compliance monitoring inspection. Looking at table 2, this refers to the number of years post the DSE. This refers to the most recent DSE. So in the same way, for dams where we've got a DSE that is older than 5 years, in some instances where we do not have a DSE at all, and that dam also being a dam that has got a high hazard rating, it means now we're looking at a high risk dam. It will land it also on the red spot, making it more susceptible to being to be prioritized for the DSCMI program. And then the last table 3, having weighting of 30%. speaks to the percentage of critical recommendations that have been completed. That is completion in terms of like implementation of these recommendations. So in an instance where you've got 100% of the recommendations being implemented on either dam that has a low, significant, or high hazard rating, that dam would not need to be closely monitored, because now we would be of an understanding that if the recommendations have been implemented, the dam is in a much better condition, as opposed to dams where the percentage of critical recommendations that have been implemented is about 20% or less. So now we're looking at a situation where the dam could actually be at the risk of failure and endangering lives and resource quality. So that is a dam that is likely to be flagged and earmarked for dam safety compliance monitoring inspection. Now, in the next slide, just to make an example, if you look at the first dam on the list, Mandalay Dam. So this is a dam that has a significant hazard rating. It's a Category 2 dam, but looking at when the last DSE was received, that is a long time ago, almost 17 years since then. But due to so meaning that the dam would not have a condition rating, because either the DSE, this could also be that the dam has actually been in existence for that entire 17 years, but has not ever had a DSE done on it. So by virtue of that, the dam will also be high ranking and be earmarked for dam safety compliance monitoring inspection, so that we look at holistically the compliance of the dam and of the dam owner and their whole compliance with regards to the regulations. So another thing, if you look at, for example, dams like Greater Brandflay, where you've got a condition where you've got a hazard rating, a high hazard rating. It's a Category 3 dam, and it's got a condition rating D, meaning that it requires some significant. It requires. Sorry about that. Meaning that it requires some significant rehabilitation. So the highest, table 1 would indicate a score of 18, which makes it which carries a higher weighting compared to the number of years that posed to the DSE, and also the critical recommendations that would have been implemented. And the fact that it shows a 6 there and it's highlighted and in red, that indicates that chances are less than 20% of the recommendations have been implemented, and that will have a score that ranges between 16 to 20, which means that dam will definitely make it to the DSCMI list. And then in the same way, going down the list, we end up with dams at the bottom of the list that have got a score between 5 to 10, which means that in that instance, we could be sitting with dams that are in a much better condition and have not had the DSE been done a long time ago, and most of the critical recommendations have actually been implemented. And that is it from my side. I'll hand over back to you, Wally.
Thanks, Mutlajo. I'm just going to now rush quickly so that we don't waste too much time. The next chapter that we're dealing with is regarding dams that are under construction. These are dams that we have issued different types of licenses, as I've said earlier on. We have about 80 dams that are on our radar. Out of the 80 dams, 13 of them are Category 3 dams, and then with about 67 being Category 2 dams that we are monitoring. This does not include Category 1 dams. So we are only referring to Category 2 and 3 dams, because that is where we are actually enforcing certain license conditions. So out of those 80, the Department of Water and Sanitation, the Dam Safety Office, we have on our ops plan a mandate to conduct site inspections once every quarter, that is once every 3 months, to all the category 3 dams. Currently it's 13, so that number might change depending on whether those dams, the construction comes to a complete and we have completion certificates, or it may go up depending on other applications that may be with us for category 3 dams, which we may issue. So, but currently as we speak, we have about 13. And on the other dams that we don't conduct physical inspections ourselves, we rely on the quarterly APP progress reports. And why are we doing this? This is a license condition. It is a condition on dam safety license that APPs must submit progress reports once every 3 months. And because of previously not having received these reports, we have actually now started what we call APP compliance progress audits, where we are actually auditing compliance by the APPs for submission or non-submission of these 3 monthly reports. These reports for TSFs, tailings dams, are not required every 3 months because, as I've said earlier on, that tailings storage facilities, we don't even issue a license to impound. We only require annual, once every year, a progress reports for tailings storage facilities. But the 5-yearly dam safety evaluations for tailings storage facilities are still required. So we are monitoring compliance by APPs. Currently, we have issued about 14 non-compliance notices to APPs out of the dams that are 80. So it means on other dams, you may have one APP being responsible for 3 dams that are under construction. But in terms of the number of notices that we've issued to APPs for non-compliance to these license conditions, there's about 14, with 9 in Dam Safety North and 9 in Dam Safety East. And then you can see that in Dam Safety Central, there's 4, whereas in Dam Safety South, it's 4 notices, but it's 1 APP for 4 dams. So you will see even the tables below, in terms of the dams that are under construction, we have about 36 of dams that are new dams, and then we are enlarging 23 dams. Dams under that have been rehabilitated, it's about 12, and repair of dams, it's 8, and with 1 dam application for decommissioning. And we're also indicating where those activities are in terms of the category of dams under construction. A lot of those dams, about 30 of them, you will find that they're in the Dam Safety South, which is your Breeder Oliphants catchment, and then you have also in Dam Safety North, where you have a lot of category 2 dams that are under construction, maybe for different types, whether it's in large alter, repair, or construction. So this is the trend of our dams that are under construction. There may be dams that are under construction that are illegally being constructed. They do not form part of this data that I'm giving here. Now, in terms of the APP compliance, the APPs, as we've said, I'm not going to repeat some of the things that we said about what is an APP. That we all know, we've already spoken about that. And who approves the APP? It's not EXA, or it's not the EXA Dams Committee, as some may have been alluded maybe in other different forums before. EXA does not have the mandate or the power to approve professional persons. That lies with the Minister of Water and Sanitation. It is in the National Water Act, not the Engineering Professions Act. It's the National Water Act, Section 117A, that stipulates who has the power to approve a professional person to carry out a task on a dam with a safety risk. The minister's obligation, it is to consult EXA, not the applicant. Hence, it's not proper that applicants keeps on maybe phoning EXA colleagues on how far the applications are, because it's not the applicant that submits the application to EXA. It is the Dam Safety Office, which is delegated by the Minister of Water and Sanitation to do that. Hence, the decision whether to approve or not approve still lies with the department through the delegation by the minister. Now, the turnaround time for applications, normally it's 2 months. Why we are saying 2 months is because the Dam Safety Office, we have established a committee. It's called the APP Applications Review Committee. We sit once every month. The last Wednesday of every month, the committee sits, which is chaired by the head of the unit. And then in his absence, a chief engineer is able to chair that committee so that we don't unnecessarily delay applications that have been received. So the committee sits at the last Wednesday of every month. And for applications that have passed this stage, they are then being forwarded to EXA. This is, as I stated, that is a requirement in terms of Section 117. They are then forwarded to EXA because you need to consult the Engineering Council of South Africa. And then EXA has got an EXA DEMS committee that also have their own processes. We only start inquiring from EXA committee after 30 days on submissions that we've made as a committee to check how far are they, because we do get, on most cases, inquiries as to how far the applications are. Then we only check after 30 days. Hence, you are saying, on average, the turnaround time for applications for an AP application that requires us to consult EXA, it is 2 months. But obviously, we do have other applications whereby the applicant has already been approved previously, but they are not on the register. We do have a process whereby they can actually still submit an application, then we can process that application. So the decision to approve or not approve, it rests with the Minister of Water and Sanitation as delegated, not EXA, as I've said. And then also the register of APPs, the regulation requires us to update the register at least twice a year, and that updates, we are doing that at the end of every May and also at the end of every November. So that is when we actually update the register. But as I've said, we are able to process applications of those who have previously been approved, but they are not yet on the register. Now, currently on our database, not the register, the database, on our database, there are 87 APPs on our database, 75 of whom are appearing on the register of APPs. I'll explain why. It means then that the other 12, though they've previously been approved as APPs, but because they have not completed their tasks yet, then they have not made it yet onto the register, which has been updated twice every year. So it doesn't mean that the 75 APPs in the country, there are 87 APPs in the country. 75 are already on the register. Now, I've already spoken about conducting the APP compliance audit. This is mainly due to what we've identified before as including involvement of unlawful construction of dams by APPs and also non-adherence to the license conditions, which is why we are doing this APP compliance audit. I'm sure some of you have already received reminders to comply to the adherence on the license conditions to submit the 3 monthly reports for dams that are under construction. The non-compliance might lead to either a suspension or a removal from the register. But also, obviously, we have to follow due process before we do that in terms of PAJA, Promotion of Administrative Justice Act, where we have to first notify you and as an APP as to give the reasons why you should not be removed or suspended, and we have to weigh the representations made. The table below also shows the transformation in the country as far as APPs are concerned. As I've said, there's 87 APPs. You will see that most of the APPs on our register, more than about 60% or 59%, they actually have passed the age of 60. We have about 26 APPs, the most number of APPs in our database. They are between the ages of 70 and 79. And then those that are between the ages of 30 and 39, we have about 9. And we still have APPs that have passed the age of 80. There's about 6 of them. So this is just the age distribution of the APPs, the 87 APPs on our database. And when it comes to the demographics, you see that about 10% of the APPs on our database are Black Africans. We've got about 87% which are white South Africans, and also 2% which are our Indian South Africans. And when it comes to the gender distribution, 97% of our APPs are male, with only 3%, which is 3 females, I can count them, being only white female counterparts, 0% Black females, and 0% Indian females. So this is just the demographics when it comes to transformation, which is a little bit slow, particularly in the private sector, because about the majority of the Black Africans, I'll use that as an example, are those that are working for the Department of Water and Sanitation. 6 of the 9 Black Africans, according to the demographics, are employed by DWS, while 3 are in the private sector. So I think there's something for us to learn or to pick up or to encourage our those who are eligible to apply APPs in the private sector to do that, to encourage them to do that. Now, I will give now to my colleague, Mr. Uze Bam, to take us through some of the frequently asked questions that we received from SANCOLD. We have been engaging our colleagues from SANCOLD Management Committee. They've sent us a list of some of the frequently asked questions. I'm not sure if everybody in the industry had the opportunity to submit questions, but that is what we are receiving. But some of the colleagues may not have received an opportunity to submit questions that may be used here in this webinar, but we will take hands afterwards for some of those that are not addressed in this session. Mr. Bam, you can maybe take us through. Mr. Bam will be assisted by all of us from the Dam Safety Office in responding to some of the questions. Uze?
Hello, everyone. Just first to check if you can hear me.
Yes, you are audible.
The first question we received was, what is the APP or team to do when no data is available? For example, stage capacity data is not available and a drawdown analysis can't be performed. And then the APP is edited as a recommendation to be completed before the next review. Our experience is that some APPs tend to recommend what they are expected to carry out as part of the TSE submission. In other cases, with the same recommendation being repeated multiple times. In the example above, the maximum drawdown capacity of the outlet works should be stated, in which the outlet works must be inspected, as the main item would be the pipe size. The investigation should be conducted before submission of the TSE, and reasonable assumptions should be made and clearly stated. The second question that we received was, when the dam is spilling during the inspection, what should be done? In some cases, reports have not been accepted. The safety of the APP and the team is a practical concern. It is a recommendation for future activity acceptable. The inspection does not have to occur on a single visit. Multiple inspections should be conducted if required by the APP or team in the case of a Category 3 dam to make a proper evaluation of the dam. The aim is to submit a report that informs the Dam Safety Office how safe or unsafe the dam is. And you can refer to the legislation in the Act Section 119A and B. In some cases, recommendations for further studies have been made and accepted, while in others the report is rejected while a certain task is not done. Can TSO kindly comment, as there may be inconsistent application across region or chief engineers? Repeated recommendations are mostly rejected. APPs are required to study all reports, including previous reports, to ensure that the recommendations that are required the APP, example, the O&M and APP studies that need to be conducted in is requirement for the dam, though the application is on a dam by dam basis. An improved review system has been implemented, which will improve standardization and consistency across the board between regions in which dam safety regulation will be followed. Example, all TSE rejections are delegated to the head of Dam Safety Office, Mr. Ramakopa now. Next slide. In some cases, the APP report may be unclear or tasks undertaken may not be well described. A quick phone call or email to the APP should be help to ensure that the updated report is issued to the TSO. If the APP fails to comply, the next logical step should be for TSO to reject the report based on the APP not performing. However, in many cases, only very old data is available and the APP cannot execute tasks unless the TSO instructs the owner to undertake additional tasks. What is the take of TSO? Due to significant number of TSE reports, it is challenging to follow up on individual TSEs for updates. TSO does not instruct the dam owner. The TSO does instruct the dam owner inherently by the applicable sections in the regulations. The APP issues recommendations which are then supported by TSO, in which the owner is required to undertake the required tasks and report on progress. I think this is an important point in that when the APP makes a recommendation, DSO would be in support of that recommendation unless otherwise specified, such as in the letter that will be submitted to the dam owner. It is also the duty of the APP to indicate to the dam owner if additional work is needed to compile a report that meets the requirements as outlined in Regulation 35. It is understood that the Dam Safety Office sends reminders to dam owners. This means DSO evaluates the previous works recommendations and includes task specialist studies to be included in the next DSE report in the reminder letter. To this effect, the directive by the DSO in terms of section 1181A instructs the dam owner to complete the work within a reasonable time frame. In most cases, the APP is asked only by the owner of or government entity, national or local, for a DSE that conforms to the regulations, while the APP advises the owner to undertake additional studies is the extra cost. The owner does not accept this, while the DSO requests additional studies. When the owner must undertake work, as failure to do so could result in legal action against the owner. What approach is undertaken by DSO? A section 118 instruction is not used to remind the dam owner to submit a DSE report. It is a APP's duty to demonstrate to the client if the DSE report will be accepted or rejected due to the DSE meeting and not meeting the requirements of the dam safety regulations and National Water Act. Section 118 is only used to refer to owners to enforcement unit when they fail to comply with the regulations or implement certain recommendations, not when when the DSE report does not meet the regulatory requirements. As such, a section 118 will not be issued for simply a DSE report acceptance or rejection. In some instances, the DSO has not accepted DSE reports because the DSE report was not accompanied by an updated O&M and EPP. If an updated O&M and EPP are required for a dam, the owner or person in control of a dam should be directed or requested upfront that these documents are prepared. Can DSO confirm its interpretation? DSO reports that are not accepted as per the example provided would be due to the fact that a recommendation was made in previous DSEs for submission of such by the dam owner. A repeat of this recommendation is rejected as DSO had already supported the same recommendations previously, and that the APP, as the agent of the dam owner, ought to have read all the reports and advised the dam owner on the regulatory requirements in which to get an accepted DSE. Are the proposed changes planned to the regulation? Yes, the processes to amend the regulations have already commenced. Further information, including public participation, will be announced in due course.
Thank you, Ize. Thank you, Ize. I don't know if maybe Ketiwe or Matlazo wants to add before we move to the last slide to close.
I think there is even some questions if I should go through it now or should we go with it after the presentation?
I think after the presentation. Okay, thanks.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, okay, please proceed.
No, I said no, thank you. I don't want to add.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm also covered. Thanks, Wally.
okay, thanks. And then we also had some inputs or comments about updating the Dam Safety Office website. We have noted that comment. We have already started to update the information on our website or on the page. And the last one was the suggestions for a dedicated communication page, at least quarterly or biannually, to keep owners and APPs informed of the new information or directives from the DSO. We will engage our communications unit for advice on the suitable forums that the department prefers to actually do that which we are being requested, just to keep the industry, quote unquote, up to date with the ins and outs of the Dam Safety Office. Chairperson of the session, I think this is our presentation, our submission. We will hand back to you for any further comments, questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I just want to take a second to thank the Dam Safety Regulations Office for their comprehensive presentation. I think it answers a lot of our questions that anyone might have had. I'm now going to move over to our question and answer session. I do note that we are already a few minutes over time. So if you do want to stick around for the questions, please do. We won't go on for too much longer. If there are many, many questions, we will consider opening up a session at SANCOLD for any of your burning questions. If you want to type them in the chat, perhaps we can find a way to also get those answered. Okay, if you have questions, please raise your hand and then I will allow you to ask your question directly. Otherwise, Wally and Uze, there are 2 questions in the chat that you can start to answer if you want to. Thank you.
I think the one question was by Mark Smith that it still needs to be answered. I can repeat the question. How does the approved for construction of tailings dams work, as the design usually specifies the design final height, which would only be reached in roughly 20 years. And as mentioned, now the license to impound is not applicable. Can the facility be commissioned while phase construction, lining and shaping of the basin that is only covered in a few years still take place, and what would be required for this approval? That would be the case. You would get a license to construct and it would be accepted in a phase construction. There is currently some facilities that are taking place in a phase approach, if that answers the question.
Thank you, Uze. We got a thumbs up.
Anyone, I mean, even my colleagues can jump in. I'll just carry on answering until such stage. Is the APP task regarded as complete once the TSO has completed its review and formal acceptance, the submission? There are instances where the APP completed a task several months ago, yet the name does not. It is until the acceptance letter has been granted, especially in the case of DSE. In case of construction, it will be the completion of the project. Regarding dams under construction, what are the department's requirements for coffer dams? Do they follow the same requirements as permanent dams, or are they separate requirements that only specifically apply to coffer dams during construction? A coffer dam would, as part of the license to construct for the dam that is being constructed, it would fall part of that license and wouldn't require additional approval.
Okay, I think there's a question of if a dam or a group of dams can be declared as dams with a safety risk, what informs the decision to conduct a risk assessment on said dams if DSCMI are reserved for category 2 and 3 dams, and by whom is the submission made to the minister? I'm not sure I fully understand, but the dam is declared a dam with the safety risk at registration. So when you send information about your dam, and then it will be classified and declared a dam with a safety risk, or in some instances, it's already constructed and maybe the assessment was not done for it. And maybe when you register the dam, it can be declared as a dam with safety risk. On the issue of the decision to conduct a risk assessment, when it's a dam with a safety risk, it follows the route of all other dams with the safety risk and will be prioritized for DSCMIs, and it's mandatory that the DSEs also for that dam that has been declared are submitted. So it will follow the normal route after that, after it's been declared.
There's also a question from Mark Smith. I think it says, how does the approved for construction of tailings dams work, as the design usually specifies the design final height, which will only be reached in roughly 20 years or so, as mentioned now that the license to impound is not applicable? Usually our license doesn't say approved for construction. You apply for a license to construct like any other dam, and then as I've presented that the monitoring thereof of that tailings storage facility, even if it's going to be reached after 20 years, we require progress reports once every year, and then a DSE once every 5 years, like any other dam, up until the dam reaches that final height, where it will now be, an application will be made for that dam to be decommissioned, and there's different processes of decommissioning tailings storage facilities, including capping and all those things. But that will be dealt with at that point when deposition stops. So I don't know. I hope I've answered, Mark. And there was another question about the routine inspection. The routine inspections are not required by law. It's advisable that the dam owner does the monthly or quarterly or yearly routine inspections, but those reports, we don't need those reports. We only require the 5-yearly dam safety evaluations unless if the interval has been granted in writing, depending on the condition of the dam. I think my colleagues will take other questions while I read others. I don't know if actually there'll be a show of hands for any other questions that's not been typed. You will guide us.
Yes, at the moment there's no hands being raised, and we only have one more question to address in the chat. All the others have been addressed by the colleagues.
If there is a recommendation for dam safety evaluation to recategorize a dam due to a change in risk, does DSO do this on receipt of the report and recommendation, or must the application be submitted by the owner or APP? We will do it on the basis of the report to improve efficiency and set up back and forth, but if information is required, we will request it.
Okay, I don't know if anyone wanted to add to that answer, or is it been addressed fully?
Actually, are you referring to the last answer about the recategorization?
Yes.
Yes, a recategorization is required if the risk downstream has changed. Hence, there's been a number of dams that have been changed from a category 2 to a category 3 dam based on the hazard potential. As an example that we can give is that there's sometimes informal settlements that gets developed downstream of a dam where 10 years ago that area downstream of the dam did not have any settlement. So we do that as part of the DSE. I hope I've covered the question.
Thank you. Yes, I think that's all the questions in the chat, and I also don't see any hands. It has been a few minutes and we are over time. So I'm going to give over to Henry John to do the closing.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Ashley. Just would like to thank everybody for attending this webinar. So on behalf of SANCOLD, just thank you very much to Ashley Kutsia for arranging this on behalf of the SANCOLD YPF. It was a very informative session, and I think a good critical one for the industry. Then also to Dam Safety Regulation, or the Dam Safety Officer, I still know them, Wally Katiwe, who's here, and Mutlakio. Thank you very much for you compiling this document and this presentation for us to share. I think it was excellent and tells us what is currently happening. And yeah, thank you also for being willing to engage with APPs and saying that we can contact you as an industry for guidance. Thank you also for the important function that you do as the Dam Safety Officer, looking after the safety of dams for our beloved country. Then I think DDG Zwane has probably left already, but maybe if you guys could just please thank him again for his opening remarks and his time. Then for our SANCOLD members, this webinar was requested by you, and we then engaged with Dam Safety Regulation to set this up, find a suitable date, and collate some questions. Obviously, we did not ask everybody for input on the questions, but that came about from sort of a few years of questions that was collated together and then passed through onto the Dam Safety Office to prepare, so that it's just much easier. So thank you for our members and the active participation in these webinars and requesting current topics that needs attention. And yes, thank you for everybody for attending. We do appreciate that. Ashley, you can close off with the formalities, but thank you once again to everybody and the Dam Safety Office.